Taking on a new role at work can be exhilarating and terrifying. And at the end of the day, you want to step into a new role putting your best foot forward. So let's talk about how do you actually transition into a new role in a really successful way. The first thing that we want to do is we want to understand the 4 phases of a new role. What does a new role look like when you're coming into it from nothing? The first phase is the orientation phase. This is when you're learning things, you learn about the team, you learn about processes, you really learn about what you're actually going to be doing in your job, even though they might have told you what your role is, you sometimes don't actually know. So this orientation phase usually lasts about 30 days. And it's a good time for you to understand what's the company culture, what's your job, what's your role within the team, and what are the gaps that the team might have that you can fill. The second phase is the emergence phase. This is when people are starting to see what you can actually do, you start contributing to projects a little bit more, and you're really able to step into your own. This phase usually lasts anywhere between day 15 to day 60, somewhere in that range. The third phase is the established phase. You are officially no longer on training wheels, and they said, here you go, this is your role, take it and own it. This is when you actually are going to be held to account and understanding what you actually need to accomplish and being held accountable to delivering that. This phase usually starts at day 45 and goes until about day 90. And the fourth phase is the mastery phase. This is once you've been in your role for a while, maybe 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and you are expected to know what you're doing. You don't need people to help you. You might still have some questions about new processes or things like that, but for the most part, you own your role and you're responsible for doing this. Okay, so let's talk about the steps to actually achieving a good transition into a new role. The first thing that you want to do when you step into a new role is you want to ask the right questions. It's very easy for people to step into a role and automatically assume that you know everything that you need to know about how you want to operate, how you want your team to operate, how you think the organization should go. All of those things, people usually, especially the higher up that you get in an organization, people come in and they say, this is how things need to happen, and I don't want any excuses otherwise. But when you're transitioning into a new role, there's a lot of unseen things that impact how successful you're going to be at your organization in the long run. Some of these questions would include things like this. What are the primary responsibilities for your role? What are the expectations for the first 30, 60, 90 days in your position? Could you describe the team culture? What are the biggest challenges that you might face with this role? What does success look like in this role? What are the key projects or tasks that I'll be working on in the beginning? How is performance evaluated and feedback provided in this role? The second thing that you want to do is you want to take initiative and you want to learn. When you're early on in your position, if you see that there's a gap for something that needs to happen and it's a small impact project, don't be afraid to just take it and own it and put kind of your stamp on what you're able to accomplish in your role. And while you're doing it, you can also learn how company processes work, who are the kind of the movers and shakers within your company, and you can kind of build a profile of your organization and where you sit in it. Some ways to do this is you can ask for projects that can be given to you. You can seek out opportunities and learn from other people in your company. And you can take advantage of the professional development opportunities within your organization. If there's trainings that you can take, if there's certifications that you can take, things like that. The third thing that you should do when you're transitioning into a new role is to sculpt your role the way that you want it. When you step into a role, companies usually have an idea of exactly what they need you to do and exactly who you should be as you're working on this role. And assuming that you are a perfect fit for the role, you will see that there are some parts of the job that are absolutely in your sweet spot, and you will see that there are things that you're probably not going to be very good at, but you can do them anyway. Now, when it comes to sculpting your role, when you get there early on, you can figure out how to build the workflows and build the processes for how you're actually going to accomplish the first set of projects, the second set of projects, and so on. If there's things that you're really good at and you know the systems that need to be built in place, you can recommend that they change them, or you can just build them yourself if they don't exist already. And for the things that you're not very good at, you can build in what I like to call handicaps. If it's something that you are, let's say you need an extra set of eyes on, or if it's a plan that you need to build and you're not comfortable presenting it, you can always have a review session beforehand. But you want to make sure that you build out your workflows, you build out your kind of what the system looks like for your new role before you get told what it's supposed to be. And the fourth thing that you want to do in a role is you want to build out what is your feedback cycle. Once you understand what your role is and you start working on it a little bit at a time, you want to make sure that you can establish with your team and with your boss what's the actual feedback cycle look like. And I will tell you that a lot of companies, when you come into them kind of just offhand and you're a new employee, like they literally just leave you out to kind of dry and figure it out. So if you don't already know what the feedback cycle looks like within your organization, you can actually tell that to your boss and say, okay, can we put together a schedule for when we're going to have our one-on-one meetings, when we have our team reviews, if you tell me how you felt about a certain project that I worked on or something like that, a lot of times the feedback cycle has to come from you, and it has to be something that you actually ask for feedback on and say, how did I do here? Does this fit what the expectation is? If you submit a project that's, let's say, your first big project by yourself, if it's something that you go to your boss and you say, hey, I've completed this project, did it meet your expectations? Was there something that needed to be done differently? You're going to find that you get a lot more success in understanding how you're performing in the organization and how people are viewing your performance, rather than getting to the end of your employment and finding out that you got fired because you didn't do what they needed you to do. So if you can build that review cycle or build that feedback cycle, you're going to be more successful in your organization over the long run. And another important thing is when you're building your profile or you're building your presence on a new team, you want to make sure that you can actually promote yourself or give yourself accolades and kind of express what you're doing really well. But sometimes that's kind of awkward. So I built this video about how to self-promote, or how the art of self-promotion at work. And with that, I'll see you on the next one.